The night exploded with the scream of metal against stone, a sound so sharp it tore through the stillness of the canyon like a blade. Ethan Carver froze, his breath catching in his throat as the echo ricocheted off the jagged walls of the RAVY. He was halfway down the gravel path from his porch, a flashlight in one hand, when the noise came again, closer this time, deliberate. Something heavy was dragging across the earth, not 50 yards from where he stood. His pulse hammered, not with fear, but with the cold clarity of a man who'd spent years anticipating the moment when the world would come for what was his. He clicked off the flashlight, letting the darkness swallow him, and crouched low, eyes scanning the tree line. The air was frigid, the late autumn frost crunching under his boots, and the wind carried a faint metallic tang, like blood or machinery. Someone was out there, and they weren't lost. Ethan's land, 42 acres of scrub and stone carved into the slope of a remote canyon, had been his sanctuary for a decade, a fortress built with his own hands after a career designing infrastructure for disaster zones. He'd seen what happened when systems failed, when nature or greed turned on the unprepared. That knowledge had shaped every inch of his home, off-grid, fortified, in VY Cybele to bureaucracy. But now, as he crouched in the shadows, the weight of that isolation pressed against him. The nearest highway was a winding, unlit thread 10 miles out, and the only souls who ventured this far were those with a reason. Whoever was dragging steel through his canyon tonight had won. He moved silently back toward the house, his hand brushing the key on his belt that unlocked the reinforced hatch beneath the deck. Inside was his arsenal, not a Sir V.Y. Vallis fever dream of guns and ammo, but a curated collection of tools for every scenario he'd imagined. Storms, fires, intruders. And in a locked case, a single .308 rifle, cleaned and sighted, not for hunting, but for moments like this. Ethan didn't believe in fear, but he believed in patterns, and the past week had been a cascade of them. First, a motion sensor tripped near the dry creek bed, its signal vanishing before the cameras could catch it. Then, a second alert on the eastern trail, silent and fleeting. He'd checked the system, found nothing amiss, but the unease had settled in his gut like a stone. Now, this metal on stone, a sound too purposeful to be animal or accident. Inside, the house was a cocoon of cedar and concrete, its amber lights dimmed to a glow. Ethan tapped the security console, pulling up a grid of the property. The sensor showed a single spike, 3 minutes old, near the western gully. No VY Souls, no audio, but the pressure reading was unmistakable. Something heavy had crossed the line. He panned an auxiliary camera, one he'd installed after a lightning strike fried his main feeds years ago. There, in grainy resolution, was a glint, light bouncing off glass or metal, brief and gone. Binoculars, a scope, maybe a drone's lens. His jaw tightened. This wasn't a trespasser stumbling through the dark. This was a probe, someone testing his defenses with surgical precision. Ethan had walked away from his old life after a bridge collapse that wasn't his fault, but bore his name. He'd been a structural engineer, specializing in CIVYC projects across the Southwest bridges, dams, flood barriers. His designs were meticulous, built to withstand earthquakes, wildfires, human error. But when a government contract went south, with politicians altering his load calculations to cut costs, the resulting disaster killed 3 people and ended his career. Scapegoated, he cashed out, left the city, and built this refuge. No covenants, no neighbors, no oversight. His deed was ironclad, predating the sprawling development district that had crept closer over the years, its manicured estates and aggressive council sniffing at his borders. That council had been a thorn for months, sending letters about VY Sewell compliance and community safety protocols. Ethan ignored them. His land was his own, exempt from their rules. But the letters turned to warnings, then demands. Register your property, submit to inspections, align with our guidelines. 3 nights ago, when the first sensor tripped, he dismissed it. Last night, the second. Now he couldn't. Someone had mapped his system, knew how to skirt its edges. He opened the wall panel behind his bookshelf, retrieved the rifle case, and checked the magazine. Loaded, safety on. He placed it by the door and sat in the dark, a glass of water in hand, waiting. Just past midnight, the gravel shifted again, softer but unmistakable. Ethan's eyes snapped to the southern window. He hadn't dozed off. His mind was too wired for that. The security system stayed silent, no alarms, no pings, but he didn't need them. He doused the last light and moved to an observation slit built into the wall, peering down the slope. 5 figures emerged, low and disciplined, their dark clothing blending with the night. Long-barreled weapons glinted faintly in the moonlight. These weren't kids or hunters. They moved like a unit, spreading out with choreographed precision. Ethan's chest tightened, adrenaline flooding his veins. He flipped a switch, engaging silent defenses. Internal cameras, non-lethal traps, a hardwired distress signal to the sheriff's station 20 miles away. He waited, rifle ready but not raised. The figures split, one climbing the ridge for overwatch, another probing the eastern fence, 2 circling the lower slope. The 5th approached the Sayre VYC gate. Ethan steadied his breath, positioned himself at the upper landing, and sighted the gate through the trees. The man reached for the latch. The rifle's crack shattered the silence, a single shot that dropped the intruder with a clean hit to the thigh. He didn't aim to kill, not yet. The others froze, a curse breaking their silence. They hadn't expected resistance, hadn't expected accuracy. They dragged their wounded and retreated, vanishing into the forest. For an hour, Ethan held his ground, using decoys, random lights, pre-recorded sounds to keep them off balance. A flash flare blinded 2 who ventured too close to the shed. By dawn, they were gone. He logged every detail, reset the systems, and assessed the damage. A scuffed fence, nothing more. But at noon, a white SUV arrived, bearing the district's emblem. A woman, Claire Hammond, stepped out, her gray suit crisp, her smile cold. She handed him a notice. Dula 16,000 fine for unauthorized firearm discharge and neighborhood disturbance. No mention of intruders, just codes and penalties. Ethan asked if her office had filed a police report. Her smile didn't waver. Footage was submitted via our compliance portal. You'll be contacted. I submitted nothing, he said. She didn't blink. Third-party systems pro vy dead it. He took the notice, closed the door, and called his attorney, Rachel Torres, a zoning litigator who'd seen this playbook before. She EU'd his footage and confirmed his suspicions. The district was targeting him, part of a pattern to squeeze out independent landowners. 6 other properties had been flagged, for sold to a shadowy holding company. Ethan's refusal to comply made him a problem. Rachel filed for an injunction, but warned him, they're betting you'll slip up. Don't. 2 nights later, the power cut out. Ethan's solar system should have kicked in, but the inverter was sabotaged, wires clipped, access panel forced. He switched to backup power and found a message buried in his firewall logs. Leave now or regret staying. He deleted it, checked the rifle, and waited. The next day brought a package, delivered to his off-grid mailbox at a hardware store. No sender, just a dense stack of documents and a flash drive. A note read, "Use carefully." Inside were internal district memos, budgets, property transfer logs, a roadmap of a 3-year campaign to consolidate land. Drone footage showed the same men who'd attacked him surveying another property. A letter, sender redacted, described harassment, fines, a staged gas leak. Rachel spent hours cross-referencing it. This isn't just acquisition, she said. It's erasure. Ethan reinforced his defenses. Encrypted backups, rerouted comms, exit plans. A drone appeared the next morning, circling the ridge. He traced its signal to a district server masquerading as an emergency task force. Rachel's contact, a retired compliance officer, confirmed Ethan was on a secret REVYEW list with others who'd been pushed out. The district's Community Integration Task Force, a ghost entity with no oversight, had marked him for removal. At 2 a.m., the VY Bration sensors tripped. Ethan flooded the slope with light, but saw nothing. In the morning, he found a scrap of black nylon caught on a boulder. 2 days later, a utility vehicle arrived, 2 men in soil testing, vests planting audio pickups disguised as sensors. Ethan removed them, documented everything, and sent it to Rachel. She fired off a cease and desist. The district's response was silence and 3 new notices: fire safety violations, septic system re-VYUs, a 50 Fantram property tax hike. "They're burying you in process," Rachel said. "They want you to quit." Ethan didn't quit. He mapped their moves, anticipated their angles. When the next breach came, it was surgical. For intruders, private sector gear, entering through a maintenance corridor only someone with blueprints could know. Ethan didn't fire a shot. He used the house flash traps, air surges, decoy retesto, incapacitate them. One fell to a stun sequence, another to a pressure trap. The last 2 were cornered, one trapped in a sealed tunnel. He bound them, stripped their gear, and logged every detail. Their rifles bore partial serials, just enough to trace. Rachel arrived, her face grim. The data vault had caught a district-coded signal from one intruder's VYC, linking to a contractor tied to urban redevelopment. Rachel compiled the EVY dense footage, documents, gear traces, and sent it through secure channels to federal attorneys. Ethan stayed silent, watching the ridge. He wasn't fighting for glory. He was fighting for the line he'd drawn. The district's response was predictable: a memo praising community safety, ignoring the breach. But the ripples spread. Other landowners noticed, questioned, resisted. The system didn't break, but it bent. Weeks later, Rachel brought a document. Ethan's property was reclassified as an independent homestead, outside district control. "They'll try again," she said. "But now they're exposed." Ethan nodded. The forest hummed, the power held, and the house stood firm. He didn't celebrate. He maintained logs, walks, repairs. The world called him stubborn, dangerous. He didn't care. He'd held his ground, not because he had to, but because he could. And in the quiet of the canyon, that was enough. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY.